Hello, good evening to all of you. You're watching Lok Sabha TV. I'm Anurag Punetha with you. The trade war between US and China, which was started from earlier this year between China and US, is getting bigger and dirtier day by day. The Trump administration has made it clear right from the beginning that the China is accused of overseeing the theft of US intellectual property and indulge in boosting Chinese companies through aggressive industrial policy. The Chinese government dismisses the criticism as groundless. Both the sides are not giving any sign of retreating and rapprochement. It all started in January this year when the US imposed a tariff of 30% on solar panels, most of which are manufactured in China and imported by US. Again, on July 6th of this year, US specifically targeted China by imposed 25% tariffs on $34 billion of imported Chinese goods. China then retaliated with a similarly seized tariffs on US products. A tariff on additional $16 billion of Chinese imports was added in mid-August. China again went for tit-for-tat approach, but when US announced that the further tariffs of $200 billion of Chinese goods is to go into effect on September 24. It all reached at crescendo. Now 24 September has gone and the war of the tariff has started. It all's getting chiller, uglier and dirtier. China has a plan to respond to which with a tariff of $16 billion of US goods as well. The US tariff starts at the rate of 10% before rising to 25% at the end of the year. That means probably from the next year onwards. The tariff will apply to thousands of Chinese products ranging from food seasonings and the baseball gloves to network routers and industrial machinery parts. So what's going to happen as far as the two nations are concerned? Both the countries are not giving any sign of retreating or any kind sign of rapprochement. We are going to discuss about the impact of this trade war in this edition of Public Forum with two guests. And joining me for the discussion, Namrata Hasija. She is a research associate in CCAS, Center for China Analysis and Study. Very warm welcome to the show, Namrata. My second guest is Patkat Pine. He is a policy analyst. Very warm welcome to the show, Patkat. But we'll be starting with you, Namrata, as ladies first. Now 24th of September has gone. What you call the war of words, the war of nerves. This trade war is getting chiller and dirtier day by day. What do you foresee as both the nations are not giving any sign of rapprochement? So how do you foresee?
The trade war, if we see, what is US targeting? It's a very strategic move by the US. And hardliners like Bolton are actually giving advice to Trump on this. So what is US targeting? At least the US knows what it is targeting. That is made in China 2025. And the Chinese experts have also realized, and they have also started, if you see all the articles that are coming in the Chinese language media, they all are talking about that US is targeting Made in China 2025. Now, what is Made in China 2025? Xi Jinping's plan for Made in China 2025 is that China will be a major power with its own technology and all the like aerospace, robotics and all these industries that it used to depend on for technology transfer from other nations, it will have its own technology. So it will be made in China. So US is targeting specific industries and they are targeting, if you see 44 military companies, Chinese companies have been targeted by the US. So they are not going after consumer products, which the Americans are using. Now you also have to realize that a lot of US firms, they manufacture in China and then they import to the US. So those companies will be hit. But when it comes to China, who is going to be hit? Normal man walking on the road, because all of them are part of the share market. You know, they invest. So that's the common people that are going to be targeted. US has very specifically gone, if you see the list of 44 companies, the military companies, specifically after aerospace technology, after remote sensing, all these high level technology. Now, if you see what China has, you know, if you see the past, how from the 90s till 2007, China had invited, China was giving incentive to a lot of foreign companies. So a Chinese company that had foreign money or outside money, they were supposed to pay only 15% tax. Whereas domestic Chinese companies were paying 33% tax. But from 2008, it's a standard tax. Either even if you are a foreign company or you are a Chinese company, you have to pay 25% tax.
25% tax, okay.
So slowly if you see how, because why China was giving this leverage. So all these foreign companies, they had easy access to the local governments. Land was given to them at a very low cost. And also, they were given other tax benefits. But now, why they were doing it? Because they wanted foreign money, they wanted technology, they wanted management skills. But slowly after, China has reached a position, and also from 2016, if you see, all the companies, especially the technology companies that were like foreign companies, they were supposed to store their data on Chinese servers. And they were supposed to go through a security review. So you already, have, they used to kind of bargain, negotiate with all these foreign companies to give them technology. And now all the data had to be on the Chinese servers.
Okay.
So, how they are targeting. So, US is targeting these companies. If we get into the thing that, US is targeting consumer, it is goods, it's targeting television, it is targeting mobile phones. No, they have a bigger plan, and especially intellectual property rights, which China has refuted in the white paper that just, released yesterday by the Chinese government, that we are not doing it, but everybody knows.
Everybody knows.
So, I think the target is something else for the US.
Okay, Patkat, I mean, the world media is crying and saying that who will bleed more between this trade war is yet to see, but somehow major economies and around the world will somehow will get this negative impact of this trade war. But given the fact that most of the countries don't deny the Chinese unfair practices and the aggressive approach by the Chinese government and, let's say, the Chinese industry, are also happy that at least the one person is taking on China. They are happy the way that Trump has taken on China. So how do you assess this entire war, and is being let's say going in favor of US in longer run or not?
Anurag, first of all, there is no doubt about two things. Number one, the Chinese companies and China as a country does not respect intellectual property rights. Number two, for a long period of time, China has been accused of dumping products in other countries at a very low price. And number three, for a long time, China has encouraged its own professionals to go to developed countries, work, steal technology and pass it back to China. So these are three undisputed things. Now, so far as this trade war is concerned, in the short run, if you look at what's happening in the United States right now, they're expecting to have a 3% growth rate after a long period of time. They had a normal 1% growth rate every year, and now from suddenly it's going to be around 3%. So the average American is very happy because more jobs there's a possibility of more jobs being created in United States. But at the same time, when you look at it, $375 billion trade deficit that United States used to have, it was unsustainable beyond a point. And Trump, being a businessman and not just a politician, he understood that from the pure perspective of American economy, he as a politician can only make win votes if he can create jobs. For China, something had to be done because they could not continue like this forever. But we also should not forget that China is also a major importer of raw materials and semi-finished products from major other countries. So any kind of slowdown in China would have an impact in other countries also. For example, when there was a slowdown in the late 2008 or 2009, that time when the Chinese slowdown happened, the Indian steel companies suffered because we are a major exporter of steel to China. But for China, the problem is double whammy. One, they have a huge industrial overcapacity today. If the Americans stop taking their products, or if their price becomes much more higher than what it is today, they will become uncompetitive. Secondly, many of the developing countries on whom this Belt and Road Initiative which China had imposed, they are now saying that we want to renegotiate it with you. Somehow many of these countries may have got a little courage from United States, and at the same time many of the countries like Pakistan are now realizing that it is unsustainable for us to do what they are doing. For China, they're fighting two wars. One is the war with United States, the other with these developing small countries on whom what they used to do is called debt trap diplomacy, wherein they will target these countries which are strategically located and have major strategic mineral resources, and at the same time they have weak institutions and corrupt regimes, so they would force them to take loans which are in the long run unsustainable in terms of repayment, and they will extract military, strategic, economic concessions from them, take over the assets, which happened in Sri Lanka, and there is a possibility of happening in countries like Pakistan also. For example, in Laos, 30% of the GDP of Laos is what they owe to China. In case of Vanuatu, it's almost 35 to 40%. Now, in case of Vanuatu, China is saying that if you can't pay back the money, allow me to create a strategic base over there. South Pacific Ocean, they can keep an eye on Australia. So, it's a war. Difficult to say which side will win. But it's going to be a challenging thing. Countries like India may benefit a little in the long run.
Okay, Namrata, now what other steps China may take? Because China has been unable to match this US dollar for dollar in this round of the tariffs, because it's heavily in favor of China, because Trump is putting a lot of tariffs on Chinese goods. So what the key question is that what other steps China may take, because there are reports that the US companies which are operating in China have started complaining about some hurdles and inspections overnight. So what do you think that China may take? I mean, the steps China may take.
Taking from what he said about especially the Belt and Road Initiative and all, how China is feeling the pressure. China is feeling the pressure. After the US sanctions, nobody can deny that China is not feeling the pressure, because it's not only the US, of course, the Belt and Road, which it had put in a lot of money. And it was hoping, now it hopes that the Western European countries and US will also partly finance the projects, because China is also, if you see, China's economy is also slowing down. We cannot deny the fact that China's economy is slowing down. So even the Belt and Road Initiative, a lot of countries, like you said, especially the Southeast Asian countries, and even Nepal has refused a project. So a lot of projects are being renegotiated, because a lot of countries again are realizing what China is doing. And if you look at Pakistan also, the governor of Bank of Pakistan, he made a statement that we cannot repay the loan.
Voices are also being raised within Pakistan to renegotiate, or let's say to recheck about the SEPT project.
The Gwadar project that is going on, it says that Pakistan will get some portion of the profit, but the accounts cannot be seen by the Pakistanis. It is only managed by the Chinese. So if I don't know how much profit the Chinese are earning, how do I know what kind of share I'm getting? So that pressure is there. And India has categorically refused to join the Belt and Road Initiative time and again. And time and again, China has been mentioning, and experts in China have been mentioning, that BRI without India would be a failure. So that is there, plus the US tariffs. And a lot of if you see, it's not now if you talk about that a lot of companies are leaving China, but it's been going on for some time. Like, Panasonic, after 37 years, it actually shut down its manufacturing base in China. Seagate has done that in 2017, Panasonic in 2015, Vibes, same. Initially, they used to get some benefits, and now they are not getting those benefits, all these foreign companies. And also the increased surveillance by the Chinese. It's not just now that after the US tariffs they are facing it. As I said, there was a law passed in China that all companies, like I said, need to store their data on Chinese servers, which is very easy for them. If intellectual property right theft has to be done, it is so easy for them. And China, what measures, if you see today's article in Global Times, and you know how especially Global Times was the one that was doing this whole propaganda thing when Doklam happened. Today, if you see that article, it says that China and India are not in competition. We should work together against the US. And
so
India,
tone and tenor is changing.
It has changed. So now China is exploring what, it
other
can
options
do, other options, because it is feeling the pressure. So Yeah, so I think this article, especially when I read in the morning.
So in that sense, we should be thankful to the Trump. That means the Trump is tightening the nose around China. Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Further question is that one aspect of one theory is that the principal objective of this trade war is not to bring Beijing or China to the negotiating table, but to probably force US companies who are operating in China to pull back their investment from China, just to counter the interdependence between the two countries, and that is the main reason.
You are absolutely right on that, because they want every manufacturing to come back to America. But one of the reasons why American companies flourished so much is because of cost competitiveness also. Now today, if they have to bring back everything to back to United States, look at the cost of production then. Will it be sustainable for an American company to manufacture everything in America and pay the kind of salary that the Americans demand? Because in China, the salaries in Asian countries like India and China, let's accept, is much lesser than what the Americans would charge for the same kind of job. So, in the short run, as I said, the GDP growth rate is a very big issue in America, and they are very happy. But there is also a factor that large number of these American companies, as you said, have components being manufactured in China. And if you start, imposing tariff on those things, many of the raw materials like the solar panels, your cost of, installation of things inside America starts going up.
Going up, that's
so there is an issue. It's not a black and white thing, because there are a lot of gray areas.
So that entire solar industry has gone. I mean, the competitiveness and the entire thing has gone haywire. So I mean, how to what you call the interdependence of the two economies? How to scale the balance? So
it's very one benefit of an interdependence is that they can't go to a war. Because if you look at the entire special economic zones of Shanghai, Shenzhen, and the whole coastal region of China, that's where all the American companies have their manufacturing bases. So if tomorrow there is a crisis in Taiwan again, if Americans send their 5th or the 7th fleet, they can't threaten China to bomb, because if they end up bombing China, they'll end up bombing Microsoft and the Apple companies
and
only.
Boeing as well.
Right. Yeah. So today, if you look at even the aerospace industry, as she rightly stated, and the telecom industry, most of the components are made in China. The biggest challenge is today, we are opening up the drone industry, and it's a welcome step. But there are companies in China called Huawei, and there are companies like, say, DJI, which have been banned in United States. Why? Because there's something called backdoor transmission of information. Your hardware, which is you are procuring from China for critical infrastructure, or say power sector, or something like drone or planes, you don't know that the hardware may have embedded chips which is silently transmitting all data back to China without the information or the consent of the user. And that is a major problem that Americans are scared of. So they have not only started banning those companies, but also in India also, there's a company called Xiaomi. There were certain issues. Indian Air Force restricted its personnel from using that cell phone. So the issues are not just about trade war. Issues are also about strategic imperatives. Issues are about the Chinese may end up knowing everything about you without you being aware that they're aware of these. So they're spying silently on you. That today's world is all the digital world. In the digital world, everything can be spied upon. So that's a major challenge that the Americans have started realizing today. But what is the future? It is very difficult to predict. One thing is for certain, a lot of other companies also have to be competitive like China, and China doesn't play the fair game. They actually do dump pricing. So we have to either do it, and or else economy of large scale production has to be done to reduce prices.
But how to do this interdependency factor? And secondly, we cannot match the price competitiveness as the China is concerned, manufacturing. If US and Trump keeps putting the tariff on the Chinese goods, that how the other economies like India is going to survive, or let's say to negate that negativity, or what we call.
See, for a long time, I mean, initially it was labor cost was less in China, and that is how companies went to China, and so that they can give a competitive price. But now, if you see over the years, the labor cost has gone up in China, and that is why a lot of companies, if you see, are moving to Southeast Asia. And I mean, if you see the apparel companies, the shoes companies, a lot of these companies are actually moving to Southeast Asia, and especially Vietnam.
Because of this trade war, because to avoid this extra taxes?
Now you can say the trade war, but they had started shifting quite a while back. Like I would say some time back, a lot of companies actually from China, they had started moving to Southeast Asia.
Because of the manufacturing cost was getting up?
Yes, because in China, if you see, the labor cost has comparatively gone up over the years. So these companies were already moving to Southeast Asia. Vietnam is, I think, the biggest, who's got beneficiary of this, because a lot of companies have moved to Vietnam. A lot of companies now are looking at Southeast Asia.
Okay.
So that is one of the things. And also how China is playing, exactly like you said, Huawei and ZTE. Even in India, there was a time when there was a group that did not want Huawei and ZTE to operate from India for the same reason that, information was going across to China. But what Huawei did, they started having sister companies, and those sister companies were Indian companies. So it was Huawei that was operating, but through the sister companies.
Okay.
So a lot of companies then started dealing with these sister companies. So, but obviously these companies are anyways ultimately attached to Huawei. And Andhra Pradesh and all these regions, especially the IT sector where it was developing, even BSNL started dealing with Huawei. And that is when a lot of people, wanted to put a stop to it. So these sister companies, Huawei has been having for a long time, ZTE also. So now, so this is happening. China finds its way to,
how to manage and how to maneuver the things. Okay.
Yeah, so they are, like very shrewd businessmen. They know how to do it. So you stop Huawei, they have the sister companies there. So this trade war, as I'm saying, it's not only for the consumer goods, it is for technology.
Okay.
And the target is technology transfer. So what ways China has, I think right now China has started again building the rhetoric. They have started saying that US is a bully, and they also had apprehensions about Trump right from the time when he called Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen right in 2017 when she came to power. From that time, if you see the way Chinese media portrayed Trump has been of a person who's a bully and who is not respecting China-US relations, and after Nixon, who's trying to shift the China-US balance, if you say.
Okay. And the impression that is coming from China is a kind of a reflection of the hurt pride of the China. I mean, we can say the reflection of the hubris. The Chinese are saying that the US is putting a knife on China's neck and somehow. But can China somehow scale down just to accommodate the US demand, or let's say to negate the impact of this trade war?
China never believed in something called Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. They always believed in the concept of centrality of China, which means China has to be supreme.
But so you can call the prudence, what do you call some sense of prudence, or let's say the sagacity.
Yeah, I think somewhere they will, over the period of few years or maybe a few months, they will be forced to come to the negotiating table when it will start hitting their foreign exchange reserve. But one thing we should not forget is that China holds around $4 trillion of foreign exchange reserve, which is in dollar. If they start dumping it in the open market, dollar will go for a toss. So that is one leverage they have in their hand. So that is one area where America is also a little concerned. But for countries like India, we can't just keep on waiting what others are doing. We have to spend more on research and development, on developing our own hardware and software. We can't have, taking 40 years for making a light combat aircraft. We have to spend, we have to force the companies to spend on this, and we have to understand one thing China did amazingly well was the creation of the special economic zones where large scale production happens to reduce price. And that is something we need to, emulate today, because we for a long period of time wasted our economy with small scale reservation. Small scale industry reservation that destroyed the whole economy of large scale production, which can actually bring down your price and make you globally competitive. So I think we are going in that direction. May take a little time, but the world today is no more unipolar. America can't either dictate terms, and China was trying to topple America and go to that level where they can dictate terms on their own. That is not going to happen either. It's a multipolar world.
How India should be doing, and let's say that we cannot be happy that because the huge trade imbalance is also with us as far as China and India is concerned, and Trump is also not very conciliatory to our demands. I mean, Trump is also imposing many things on Indians as well. H1B visa.
Indians are also extracting through an MTCR or something else. We are
so what India should be doing?
So it's called co-opetition. We will be having collaboration also. We will be having competition also. And everyone will realize that the other has a place to survive, and we can't just bully everyone else. So I think this is where we will have a lot of collaboration. Today, we have no option but to collaborate with China on a lot of areas. But do not reduce your guard. You have to keep in mind that we have to develop our own capability. We have developed in automobile today, and we can do it in other sectors also. Collaboration is the future. And also, at the same time, develop your own indigenous capability so that tomorrow India can be like a China in terms of technology.
How long this trade war can last? I mean, how do you foresee? I mean, can last longer for months and years, and how do you foresee?
See, I think it cannot last for years because China and US both, I mean, at least China now is realizing that it is under pressure, and there are a few visits that are coming in September, the Chinese, some Chinese visits to US, and the interesting thing is that Trump did not wait for these visits to get over and then impose this additional tariff. He did it before they are coming. So kind of putting him in a stronger position that, you know, when they come, you know, they can be on the negotiating table. But I feel it cannot last forever. China will, I mean, China, US definitely will, and especially China would definitely kind of try to, you know, slow down the process that is happening. But how far Trump will take it, we have to wait. Who will win is also another question right now. Maybe US has a little edge over China, but at the end of the day, I think it's not about winning or losing. It's about what US is targeting, and exactly made in China 2025. So till where will US go to target that, and how will China react to it? The way we are looking at the way they are reacting, they are feeling the pressure.
Very short answer from you. I mean, I didn't see the reaction of the anti-Trump lobby within the America. I mean, the post-truth lobby, which was held back against Trump. What has been their reaction so far?
Because the GDP growth rate is a major reflection that the Americans are happy today. Jobs are coming back. So they can't, you know, oppose Trump on this. They can't oppose Trump on other factors, scandals. But this is where Trump is winning, at least for the time being. Long run, we don't know what's going to happen. You know, something else may happen. But at least for the time being, the Americans are very happy. The common American, average American, who doesn't read New York Post or New York Times or Washington Post, who doesn't believe we belong to their Latians. So they are very happy because the jobs are being created.
Okay, I mean, so the trade war has started 24 September onward. The trade war is getting bigger and shriller. The Trump administration has made it clear that this huge trade imbalance between US and China is not in favor of United States, and so is probably tightening the noose around China, and China has started feeling the pressures. Who scales down first is a matter of conjectures and a matter of to be seen. Thank you very much, Namda, for coming and talking to us. Thank you very much, Patkar, for coming and talking to us. That's all we have in this edition of Public Forum. Thank you very much for watching us.